Hello, is
Okay,
Mr.
so
Mwemba here?
Mr. Member is having a challenge. He has dropped out. He's trying to rejoin.
Okay, can we have you present and then
No,
he comes after you?
he's back.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, please. Thank you. Mm. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you. Thank you of inviting us so that we could come and share one or two insights about the data protection and what it does. So, random, we have an act that was developed that could regulate the processing of personal data, thereby being called the Data Protection of 2021. So Zambia's Data Protection Act of 2021 regulates the collection, the storage, transmission, and also processing of personal data, covering both automated and also non-automated systems. It applies to hospitals, clinics, laboratories, researchers, and AI platforms. Now, who is to be covered under this one? I think, as I've mentioned, hospitals, clinics, labs, researchers, and also AI systems. All these particular fall under this particular scope. So, part of the sensitive data that is being considered is health, biometric, genetic information, receive the highest level of protection. Even when we go into the health framework, you find to say this particular category receives that high. So health practitioners are classified as data controllers and also processors under this particular law. The key principle there is lawful basis and also fair, secure, transparent handling of all patient data, as it were. Now, AI-driven health research, okay? So AI systems in healthcare routinely process sensitive patient information. The Act permits scientific research, but only when you have strict safeguards that have been put in place. So some of those particular safeguards that need to be put in place is, the first one is lawful basis is required. If you look at our Act, sections 13 and 14 of the Act justifies this particular aspect. So there has to be that particular lawful basis for you actually to do that particular processing. Then there's also the aspect of data minimization. In this particular arrangement, you only collect and process what is strictly necessary for that stated purpose that you have requested for from the data protection. So automated decisions researchers must justify and also document any automated decisions. Okay, so in this particular aspect, you should be able to be realistic and also marry maybe with past manual data that was gotten as you embrace this particular automated decision process. Now, as you try to maybe achieve this particular situation, the act also brings about the aspect of consent requirements for patient data. So consent is the cornerstone of ethical data processing. So under the act, consent must be written, informed, specific, and unambiguous. It must be clearly understood how patient data is going to be used in an AI research based. So a patient is supposed to, be aware of what is obtained. For instance, number one would be informed and also specific. Patient must be told exactly how their data will be used, including any AI application that you would want to apply. And also, the Act again also provides data subjects may withdraw consent at any time without any penalty that you might fall on them by doing that particular aspect. And also, hospitals must maintain documented records of all consent obtained. Hospitals need also to put up mechanism of implied consent. For instance, mechanisms as maybe, there are quite various research that require maybe if a patient, the moment they consent to this, any other study afterwards that is closely related to that. So there are mechanisms of specific studies that maybe the health practitioners would be able to undertake. So they should be able to make sure to say they specify and they are easy for one to actually follow. Now, among vulnerable persons, additional safeguards are required with processing the data of children or vulnerable individuals. Maybe this one, maybe someone could be critically sick or something like that. So you should be able to provide additional safeguards so that at least it becomes easy for the commission to actually understand. Registration of data control and processors. Registration registration with the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner is not an optional. It is a legal requirement for all health facilities processing patient data. It established formal accountability in health data governance. So it is mandatory because processing without registration contravenes with the law. And one of the other requirements that is there is that each institution is supposed to display their registration certificates as a way of trying to show to say, okay, this particular facility is registered with the data protection. In case of there are any changes to the focus of a health facility, it's important that the facilities must notify the commission of any operational changes. If at all today you were, doing maybe research on maybe 2 variables, and then you decide to increase maybe to about 3 or 4 variables, it should be noted, and also it should be explained to the commission to say, okay, our focus has changed a little bit to this particular dimension of study. Again, the Office of the Data Protection is Zambia's primary data protection enforcement authority that oversees compliance, investigations of breaches, and also guiding organization of lawful data practices. So there's registration that is involved, registers, data controllers, and also processors. And also it also licenses data auditors. And then in terms of investigation and enforcement and the inspections, it also investigates complaints and also conduct on-site compliance inspections. It also issues binding guidelines and also codes of conduct for data handling. Recently, we were just completing the healthy guidelines. So that is part of what the mandates of the commission has. Enforcement and coordination, it coordinates national data protection enforcement across all sectors. So it could be in finance, health, and all other categories. In terms of inspection and enforcement, the Office of the Data Protection has broad powers to ensure compliance. Health facilities must be prepared for unannounced inspections and must cooperate fully. Maybe this one should not be able to scare us. Unannounced in the sense that in case there's a suspicion or maybe there could have been tip of something that could have been happening, the commission is able to make an announced visit to the facility. And also, it also must be noted that failure to cooperate may result in penalties, prosecution, or suspension of registration. What also must be noted is that the commission will always come with a warrant. Inspectors shall enter premises to examine record and also systems that have been put in place by a health facility. It is also required that there could be mandatory cooperation. So facilities must be able to provide full access to records, systems, and staff. And also, it's also expected that as we try to process patient data, we adhere to the requirement of 24-hour breach reporting. So data breaches must be reported to the Office of the Data Protection as and when it has been noticed within a period of about 24 hours. In terms of security and retention of biometric data, it's expected that all patient data must be encrypted in transit and also at rest. And also biometric and also genetic data require a heightened documented protection. As we might be aware, it's quite hard for it's almost impossible to actually obtain a different in case it is compromised, this particular type of data. And then in terms of defined retention, data may only be retained for lawful, clearly defined purposes. as you are aware, maybe you could be able to conduct a study that you foresee, and maybe the data might be required. What is important is that this particular data, as it be able to, there should be a lawful basis for you to actually have that particular data.
Looks like Mr. Member has been kicked out of the meeting. I don't know if he'll manage to rejoin soon. If he doesn't, Dr. Mumbi, you will be next to present.
Maybe just a comment as he tries to rejoin. Are you able to get me?
Please go ahead.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so we've worked with the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner as CIDAS and other partners together with MOH to develop a statutory instrument for health, because the Act in itself is very broad and it's meant for all entities. So banking sector, the mining sector, and so it needs to be customized to each sector. And so over the past 2 years, CIDAS has worked with the Data Protection Commissioner's Office just to develop this statutory instrument, and a lot of specialists have been engaged from the health sector to contribute to this, because there are certain clauses which are not very clear, that I think over the 2 years we've been having back and forth. One of them is in the health, when we talk about health, a subject or a patient, what does it mean when we talk about consent? And so issues that were coming out in some of the meetings were, when a patient walks into the facility, it's consent by conduct, because they are coming to get a service. And so there's no way it will be, the patient will be subjected to accept to give certain information and not give certain information. But the approach was different if it's going to be for research. But I mean, just attending the way you attend to patients as doctors, it's consent by conduct, because there's no way you're going to be getting consent for every patient. So by entering the premises and coming for a service, it is implied consent. So those are certain things that we're trying to get straight, and I'm just hoping that now they are straight. Our last meeting was about 2.5 months ago. We just hope that now things have been straightened, because health is a very complicated sector. So I thought I just needed to comment So there are certain other issues that he brought up that we discussed, and I think it's very important that as healthcare workers, healthcare workers are protected, even as this act is being implemented, because it has grave consequences and grave penalties for certain things, and so we thought health workers really need protection even when this enforcement is done. So I thought I could just make those comments. Thanks.
I can see Mr. Mwemba's joined.
Yes, Doc, I have joined. Thank you so much for that contribution that has just come through. Yeah, it's true. And what also, I think the part that he has also emphasized on is the aspect of implied consent, which is quite critical because it's not supposed to be, because health, like he has stated, to say it's quite a delicate element, so it can never just be taken just literally, just like that. Let me just share my screen. So like I was trying to say was on cross-border, it must also be understood that the first tier that we're talking about is the aspect of storing this particular data within country, which does not need any approval, just a mere registration from the commission guarantees you that you can store data within country. And then in terms of transfer, there has to be consent and also approval from the Data Protection Commission. It could be a transfers, it transfers, and also that particular context, you request for that particular authority, you're given a form, and then you fill it in, and then you should be able to sign that particular form. What must be also be noted is what I said earlier on, which talks about data in transit and also at rest. We must be able to ensure that this particular data is anonymized, so that even if it is being processed elsewhere, it should be able to be anonymized, so that the data itself is not in raw form, that it's able to be linked to the data subject. And then international AI collaborations, we must be able to put safeguards in this particular place. So the Act recognizes that particular aspect. We must be explicit when it comes to those particular. In terms of penalties, risks, and some of the key recommendations is that a maximum of about 2% of the annual turnover for serious violation of the Act. It can be able, it's one of those particular penalties that penalties that can be. And then in terms of breach reporting, I think as was indicated earlier, 24 hours is a mandatory window to report any breach to the data protection. And some of the key recommendations are that you conduct regular compliance audits. So as a controller and a processor, you should be able to ensure to say, no, there are these particular audits that are going on. And you should be able to make sure to say you schedule a periodic review of the data handling practices that you do. And also perform some impact assessment before undertaking the deployment. So complete DPAs before deploying AI systems. Yeah, this is quite cardinal by the commission to say, no, let's set up this particular impact assessment. And then embedded privacy by design builds data protection into AI systems from the onset. As you try to, design or come up with, you should be able to be there that at the end of it all, there has to be data protection. Data subjects' rights have to be not to be violated. So compliance, what we must also know is that compliance is not a burden. It is the foundation of ethical, trustworthy AI innovation in Zambia's healthcare. Thank you so much for this particular privilege of according the commission to speak out on what the Act says on data subjects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mwamba, for your presentation. If we have any questions, please just take notes of them, or you can post them on the chat if you think you will forget. We'll get back to the questions later. Right about now, I ask Dr. Mumbi to go ahead and present.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mwemba, for accepting the invitation. And indeed, I've learned quite a lot. I have some, just maybe a few questions that I'd like to ask, and then I think others will follow later. So I'll be presenting on the use of AI as an augmenter. In this particular case, for me, an augmenter really means as an assistant, just like any other tool that I've been using before. So I use AI in this particular manner. The disclaimer is that I have a lot of AI people in the team. I would like to throw the difficult questions or some things that I may not understand to them. I know Dr. Mlima is there. I know Mr. Mwemba is there, and quite a number of people who were there last week and also this week. So I feel safe. Please, I'm not an expert. I learned this AI on the street, and I'm still learning. Yeah. So yeah, why AI in my case? Why I think this is particularly very important. It's because in a place where we have a burden in terms of patient overload, and we have to do a lot of documentation, and with so much increasing information to learn, it becomes very difficult. That's why I think perhaps for a general practitioner, it's practically impossible, because I think for a general practitioner has to know everything has to know a bit of ophthalmology, has to know a bit of plastics, has to know a bit of dermatology, like everywhere. So you can imagine how overwhelming it is even in general ophthalmology, it's so overwhelming with subspecialties, almost like 8 or so. So it's practically impossible. Even with one particular specialty, for example, if you take cornea, there's so much publication that is come out every day that is very difficult to catch up. And our patients are really becoming more knowledgeable, so we need to engage them at that level. And there's just so much to augment. So there's just so much that you need to write about, something that you need to take care of. You have families, you have work to do, and you have so many things to do. You need to learn some certain subjects that you've never learned in your life before, but you really have to know that. So really, AI is really quite something that has come in as an assistant, but particularly getting a lift from the use of a calculator. When we were in secondary school, it was very difficult then to use a calculator. It was frowned upon, and we are encouraged to use those log tables. You can imagine we had to memorize sometimes the natural log of a figure, the sine, the cosine, all those things. So the focus was really about doing those things that are not taking you anywhere. So again, later on, there was a shift towards making the student focus on the principles and not dragging along on the things like memorizing all those things. So the calculator just became as just a tool to use. And when we went to the university, we were able to use the calculator and carry along with it. So I see AI as a tool, just like the way we are using the calculator. So this is briefly the journey. So I'd wish us, maybe you follow me through. Now, you can use AI for brainstorming. In this particular one, there are different type of tools. The easier one that really are very easy to use would be like things like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. These one be very easy. You can ask the questions, the thing that is called prompting. You ask it in a simple way. You can even ask it to explain in a grade 7, or in grade 2 point of view. And this has really been very helpful. So when I remember when my kids were writing exams, sometimes it was very difficult. I didn't have much time. So sometimes they ask the difficult questions I don't understand. I'll ask them to ask Gemini and ask them to to tell it like you are in grade 7 and explain to me like in grade 7. And, they'll get the answer like that. As a personal tutor, again, the people or families use this. When again, my kids, there's some concepts in maths I've completely forgotten. So this particular one was changing of bases. So I never realized how long ago I'd done that. So when they asked me to help them out, again, it was difficult. So I'd used Google AI Studio then, which is almost, I think, about 18 months ago, but it has transformed over a period of time. So that particular time that this AI Studio, the Google AI Studio, was really helpful because my son just wrote the question on the paper and got a picture of it and started talking to AI Studio at my comfort. I only came back to ask if he found the answer, and he was able to explain to me. So I said, I can use this in my practice. And that's how I started trying to learn a number of things. So in terms of the surgical preparations, I'll just try to share a short case of a patient that we treated with made a decision, and this was enhanced because I was able to, to make use of the available tools. And then I'll try to mention a bit of relevant terminologies, and then I'll talk about what I mean when you really want to understand the topic in details, how this AI also just makes things very easy. And then also as a quick evidence-based clinical decisions, some of the tools that are there will be SciSpace and Consensus. There are many others that are there that are more familiar with SciSpace. And then learning the skill of prompting is something I think for the past 3 years or so I've been practicing, and I think I've perfected the art. It becomes very easy. I feel it's something that you need to learn when you're using it. And then you just try to mention a few on-the-go AI tools that you may make use of. So I think many of us knows this runner, Eliud Kipchoge, is a Kenyan runner. You know that he did the a sub-2-hour marathon. So he really pushed the limits. So what what it did over time, I think humans have been able to learn the physiology, the anatomy, and increasing the efficiency. There's physics there, and people are able to run with efficiency and not having injuries. So in short, people are using tools around them to reach their maximum potential. So AI does the same thing, I believe, for clinicians and in other professions, is that you should be able to identify what you already have and then ask a question. How can I reach the sub 2-hour marathon? How can I reach, a bit of the hyperhuman level of efficiency? So this AI has freed me to do a number of things. For example, if I had complicated cases like I remember during undergraduate, I was trying to understand the topic of tuberculosis. So tuberculosis will start from the basics, like the definition of it, need to learn the anatomy of the lung, and then I also need to learn about the alveoli. I needed also to go deep and start learning about the pathology, which is a lot. It's a big book. After I've done the pathology, I needed to learn how to take the history. From the history, I needed to know the imaging. Imaging of the lung is also a big topic. So this really synthesizing a topic like this to take like a long time, sometimes 2 weeks. Okay, but now what this does using just Notebook LM, I'm able to get everything that is there, the webinars, whatever it is. I'll try to demonstrate with one of these topics, and then be able to synthesize the topic very fast. And afterwards, I use like the way I was using a calculator and abandoned the big logbooks, like those logbooks where you have to go line by line to check. Yeah. And then also, you know how it is that every time you're going to theater, you have a very long list. You really may not have time. If you have like 12 patients and you need to read through each particular case, the easy one that you do routine may be okay. But even with those routine ones, there's always something, and you want to be ready when you are going to theater. It's really like we're going for battle, but you can't be ready if you're just, guessing. You need evidence-based things that have worked before. And when you sit down, you pick one particular topic, like, for example, pellucid marginal generation, you realize that the amount of literature that is there is so overwhelming, and you don't know where to start from searching. You just give up. But with this AI, it helps in terms of bringing out that information, synthesizing it so that I can spend more time in thinking about the topic, thinking about applying what I've learned to my particular patient. So I found this quite very efficient. And also just to keep me abreast within and outside my subspecialty, because sometimes you realize that you are so focused on in ophthalmology, or I may be focused in cornea, I forget completely about uveitis. Sometimes I forget everything about rheumatology, but this helps me in a very short space of time to understand that particular way. And also, it really helps someone also to have time to really learn about something that you love. For example, I love plants, so I can spend time within a short period of time to learn everything about a particular plant I want to without really struggling. And it's a hobby that makes sense. Yeah. So when you are brainstorming with AI, so this becomes like your thinking partner. Okay, so you are using this for clinical decision making, and then perhaps you can throw a question. I have this 22-year-old patient, and who has a white reflex in the eye. I know there are many things that can cause white reflex. Okay, do you sometimes want you to ask individually yourselves, for the clinicians who are there? Sometimes you are seeing a patient and then you just have a mental block. You know the diagnosis, you saw the diagnosis of a particular condition a long time ago that you learned, and you can't remember. So for example, differential diagnosis of white reflex, which is leukocoria. So you only remember cataract, retinoblastoma, and then you go blank. So this helps you to help you generate those questions, those differentials, and it will help you to think through and come up with the actual diagnosis. Okay, so you can do also those things like trying to help you draft, like PhD research questions and stuff like that, just to give you ideas and think through on how you can run that. And then also it becomes a teaching angle of exploration. For example, a topic you are not familiar with, I'll pick an example of maybe a patient who have cornea ectasia. Okay, you can prompt it by saying, you are the professor in this particular field and I'm a trainee, can you interact with it? You ask questions, it's more or less like a Viva, you know? So you ask, it answers it. Where you have gaps, you go back and read. You can also have, you can stress test your reasoning, okay, argue against the plan that you have had before, and then ask, am I really missing out something? So at the end of the day, this is quite very beneficial. So there's sometimes you want to know a topic in so much detail, but you really don't have time and you have so many things. So the old way that we are doing for undergraduate, I think, and also maybe when you're doing the MEd, is that we would sit, I want to know this particular topic, and then again, similar to what I was talking about TB, I need to start gathering information. So this information I'm going to gather from theater, from different, from the library, from the hard copies, from journals, from the textbook, and it can be so overwhelming. And then after I do that, I read through everything. After I've read through, and then I start synthesizing. So the act of synthesizing can be so overwhelming. Yeah, so sometimes you discover that you want to do maybe a mind map, or just trying to draw a tree diagram, something that is going to help you, or an algorithm, or now you're going to remember from cause to effect to treatment. So that will really be very difficult. But a tool like Google Notebook LM has really become very handy. So with Notebook LM particularly, I'm really been thrilled to be able to use these two. If, for example, I have one particular topic, I'll mention like pellucid marginal degeneration or any corneal ectasia, I'm going to upload, imagine uploading 50 PDFs from there. I'll upload websites and then upload whatever it is, transcripts, webinars that are there. Some webinars take 1 hour, 2 hours. If I'm going to start this topic, it'll take forever. So I put in all those things and then I ask it, it generates for me a mind map that I'm able to, to do that. And then I can also ask it pre-learning questions. I know I'm learning about this new topic that I want to know. For example, I'm learning about this particular plant, Wondu, Amanthus hybridus, and then I can sit and ask myself, okay, what do I need to learn about this topic before I can actually go into it? So I'll ask questions like, what type of group of plants does this belong to? What are the nutritional contents? How do you prepare it? So I have all those questions, and then afterwards, I delve into the topic. With this, actually synthesizes all the information that they and can generate an audio for you, a podcast that can take about 25 minutes, and you can make a lot of them that you can listen to whenever you're doing other activities. You can also generate a video overview about that. You can also have flashcards, and also maybe just ask the frequent asked questions or the study notes. So yeah, really, this is the workflow as you are seeing, which is actually 4 steps that, for example, I'll use. I'll upload the sources, and then I'll generate the mind map. I'll listen to the podcast, and then I'll test myself with the flashcards. So over time, over the past 2 years or so, I've been able to use this type of flow, and it has really made my work easy. And sometimes I speak to myself, I say, this is really good, this is really genius. So, and I do not suffer. It becomes very easy for me to enjoy and understand the topic. In essence, I'm not studying for exams. I'm just studying so that I can know this topic and be able to help a patient. So for example, this is, maybe let me just demonstrate a bit what I'm trying to talk about. So I have this, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so for example, I get this topic. So I have here, maybe I'll search very quickly how I applied. So you can see this is not LM, right? So this is not LM, using my own login details. So this is the workbook that I have. So I have this topic, so I can still create a new notebook. Okay, right? So here the notebook I'm talking about is, for example, here. PMCD. Okay, so these are the ones that are uploaded. I uploaded a lot of YouTube videos from there, uploaded some papers, uploaded so many things around here. So when you see here, I can interact with this paper and ask whatever I want to ask. Sometimes it also sends me prompts on what maybe I can ask. Depending on what I generate, I can save this into my notes. Alternatively, You can click here to audio, and then you get an audio here, or you can get a video. I'll show you some of the things that I've already done before. Let me pick the flow. I'll pick, for example, rebuilding this is a video I got, so it will show. Yeah, so this is what it's explaining.
Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're taking a look at the human eye, but not just as an
Yeah, so you do that. That's perhaps a video that you can do. You can have a report. You can have the mind map. So, sorry, this will take much time. So I'll take this mind map, for example, right? So you have connectasia here, and then you can click this. You keep on using this mind map that before, when you are studying, it will take you forever. So once you have done everything here, you reach the end, and then I'm trying to zoom out. Then you can get this and store this and be able to use, so this becomes something, a tool that is much easy. And also, yeah, so similarly, you can have so many things. Here you have the study notes that you're able to use, and it's going to tell you where you got all the sources and to be able to get that, all the technicalities and the information that you want to use, so you'll be able to get them from there. And then yeah, so basically that's how I've been able to use that. Go back to my slide. Yeah, so the next part is, how do I use AI as a personal tutor? Imagine I have this cornea topography. It looks daunting and really overwhelming, reminding me of the time that you were in undergraduate and you have ECG, which will look very complicated and everything. So when I came here, I started having the similar tremors I was having when trying to understand what an ECG is for corneal topography. And then I'm wondering, what is this? And this one is taken from the swept source anterior machine, but the usual one that we are used to is the pentacam that is really there. So it has a score which is different. And when the first 4 quad maps are quite very common, but this particular one, the ectasia score, is kind of a bit different as a risk. So then what do I do in this particular case? Again, I'll just come through here. And in this particular case, I'm using AI Studio as a personal tutor. So I come and try to use this AI Studio. Okay, so I know Dr. Mulima and others and Mr. Mwemba make use of that, but for me, I have not much business with that. So I come to where I have business. Oh, this is not giving me. Okay. Oh, so I go to playground. If you just open your AI Studio, you go to playground, and then you come here, anti-gravity. I'm not going for that anti-gravity business. I leave it. I only come to this live, and then I go to the newly updated. So with this AI Studio, it has changed over time, and it changes, becoming better and better. But the only challenge is that sometimes it lags. So this becomes like my personal tutor. So when I come here, I'll click here to share my screen, and then I'll be able to talk to it. For example, I'll click here, share screen, and then I'll allow, and then, be able to talk. Let me just show briefly, and then I'll share my entire screen, and then I'll try to ask it. Yeah, okay, let me just stop Gemini. Why do I stop that? Okay. Yeah, I'm there. Okay, just give me a moment. So yes, so as you can see, I'm able to run through that, and I can have this conversation for quite a long time. and on and on. So I've learned so many things using this mode. I've been able to use Excel, learn the Excel from the basics. It will direct me. What does this cell mean? What you need is just time and patience. So it will be able to tell me what this ectasia score is. I can interact further, show me or pull out some papers by Gartner and Dr. Sad, and then explain to me what this epithelial map means, whatever it is, run me through. So that's how I've been able to do that. Yeah, so this is another just example of this particular patient. I had the challenge with understanding, and then I had this image, and then combining all that. So just understanding, this is what I was trying to say about NOT-LM. Same thing I've explained there already. So if you remember, there's this gentleman here, Benjamin Bloom. I think the people in education are really familiar with this person. So it really showed that there are different types of methods of teaching. If you look at this particular picture, this is a classroom, typical classroom. People who learn about, if you're learning about acquisition of knowledge. In this, the x-axis shows the performance of the class, and then here the number of learners that are there. So the first part that is in blue is the usual one. So you have a small number of people who are following the normal curve. You have a lot of people are scoring high marks, and the majority of them are only lying around here. And of course, a few failing. When you have this learning with reinforcement, you have hands-on and stuff like that, this curve moves slightly this side and becomes a bit smaller. So you have more people learning. But using one-on-one tutoring, this increases up to, imagine, 98%, higher baseline. So not all of us can manage to have a one-on-one tutor to tutor us, but this AI Studio really enhances that type of learning. So that's why I really like it. And this really, you see a lot of papers that have come up in mentioning that. So I use this as a personal tutor. So that's one of the tools. The other one is this Socratic dialogue. This comes from the philosopher Socrates. So it's where you are asking back and forth questions with the AI, and you learn quite a lot iterating. But of course, you need to go back and confirm what you have learned. The other part is a quick evidence-based clinical decision that I'm going to make. Before, what to do is the flow would be like this. I have to go to PubMed and then Google Scholar, and then you manual search, and then I come with a lot of papers. Just searching alone, having been in the clinic and in theater, I'm already tired. I'll just click, pull 3 papers or so, sleep. And then the following day, again, I have another challenge just like that. So it was really kind of very difficult to do that. So, but with AI documented, it's easy for me because I'll go to a tool like SciSpace, and then I ask around there, and then very quickly I can interact with a paper very, very fast. So, okay, take this example of this patient, the 52-year-old who had total limbal stem cell deficiency. You can see from there that everything is all gone. First of all, this eye was very inflamed, so we gave we give topical steroids to optimize the surface. Once that clears up, we realize that there are no limbal stem cells, but we know that the limbus has stem cells. If we transplant from one eye and to the other, this can actually make the cornea to be very clear, right? So ideally, we need to do all these things, but what is required is amniotic membrane, for example. We need fibrin glue, which all these things in Zambia, it's very difficult to process them. So we have to import this amniotic membrane. And then also we have to ensure that the fellow eye is good and everything. So for this particular one, the challenge was the fellow eye was present, was healthy. The bandage contact lens was there, but amniotic membrane and fibrin glue was there. And this was really troubling. Hey, can we do? So the goal is to move from here to that. We have not reached there. There are many studies when you pull out that shows that you can actually reach this stage. So before surgery, in the clinic, of course, we make this diagnosis, and then we plan that we're going to do simple limbal stem cell and epithelial transplantation. And then we do the pre-op check. We realize that, oh, there's no human amniotic membrane, there's no fibrin glue in stock, and it's cumbersome to get them. We have never imported before. This is around December also. Go back to the YouTube channel and said, I saw a paper a long time ago, someone saying that you can actually do this procedure without these 2 things. And then I'm saying, this person has so much trust in me, but how can I best optimize and make sure I'm making a correct decision? Fine, I make a booking. Sorry about that. So I'd made a booking. I'm going to do this patient after evaluating the data very fast, actually, a night before. The data that would have taken me maybe 1 week to synthesize and understand was able to synthesize because I was able to chat with many different papers in the same size space. So I was able to decide this, it will not be benefit to the patient, canceled the case in the morning, and then talked to the patient. Patient was agreeable, and then we started the process of procurement, clearing, like looking around, where can we get this? Realize, oh, in the US it's expensive, it takes this much, patient doesn't have money. And then we realized that, oh, Sri Lanka, there's that. So it took us about that amount of time. And then we sourced the glue. We realized, oh, we don't have this machine for to mix the fibrin glue. And then eventually, which is 5 months later, we do the surgery and we are kind of happy about it. So these are some of the things that, for example, I pulled out from that size space and I was able to get evidence. So Dr. Sangwan has done so many studies around that. And then I saw that he was doing human amniotic membrane plus fibrin glue plus that biopsy from the other eye, bandage contact lens. This is a foundational protocol. Very strong evidence. Other people like Jane in 2025 came up with this. It's possible, on the bare cornea without using any of these things, no fibrin glue, but only 6 reported cases. I said, I can't experiment with this. And then this is a glueless. You're not using glue. This is Madiugne. I think all of us know this gentleman. 2024, he was using femtosecond laser. I don't have this. We don't have these expensive machines in our environment, so out of question. And then I checked slate without both glue and amniotic membrane. So that led me to make a decision rather than just a rumor. So this was kind of evidence-based. So this is kind of how I go into this. Step 1, as you can see, this is readily available too. The only challenge is that the tokens are few. This is 100 credits, so you have to spend a bit of time. So I type in a question, can slate be done without both ham and fibrin glue simultaneously? I pull out a lot of, here it's searching, as you can see from there. It's still searching. Look at the number of articles it pulls out, and then I start getting all these same ones around here. I get this, and then from this point, I can start interacting with it and talk to it and ask whatever thing I have to ask based on the information in the paper. So this is actually the literal list that I had. You can see from there. Okay, I've just blacked out all these other patients, but you can see this was my theater list, and this is what I planned for and decided to cancel December 2025, and was unable to do that. So later on now, 7 months later, we managed to buy this, the backstem. We were get amniotic membrane. We had all these things. You can see how we had optimized the surface. We were able to get the limbo stem cells and put them concentric rings around there and put a bandage contact lens. And later on, also still going towards recovery. And that was the benefit about it. So again, how do you go to size space? Let me just demonstrate very fast. So when you are going to size space, so you go like to lead you here. Oh, sorry, I got the consensus one. Let me show this. Yeah, so I like size space, although on the expensive side. So the page comes like this, or I've already registered here. So you have all these things around. You can see that I only have about 32 credits or tokens around here, but it does all sorts of things. And why I like it, because now they have added in so many things at my disposal. I have the deep search here. I've connected to my Zotero library and also Mendeley for my citations there. And then you can go into PubMed, you can go into Google Scholar, like literally everything around it. All I need to do is do all those things and I'll be able to interact with the paper. So that's really the benefits. But again, I just wanted to mention and echo from my point of view, humanly speaking, I've been trying, I was very privileged to have attended last week's class about the ethics and everything around it. And thanks for but just transferring the ethics that we practice in medicine, the ones that we made vows and everything, be able to apply is what I'm talking about. So here, you should never upload the patient data in the AI system. It's very tempting to just get a picture and throw it here. Age and everything around, try as much as possible to avoid, and as we are told, and also as we have been taught, that there's this law that we need to do, but also just professional ethics and conduct is important. And then secondly, if you are doing some works, you may have come up with a very good idea to do something, and then when you throw it in this AI, through scoping reviews, my suspicions, I'm not a professional in this, I'm not an expert, but my suspicion is you are letting loose your works everywhere in the public, and someone may get your idea. So I think it's important that you don't throw all those works and start putting them in these AI things. And then sometimes some AI agents like Claude Cowork, you will be able to access your email, you'll be able to access your calendar and everything. So you really don't want to let loose a tool like AI to go everywhere, at least for now. Okay, I may not know how they're getting our data, but maybe for now, I kind of restrict Claude Cowork to my calendar also. It helps me at the beginning of the month. Can you draw the calendar and the programs I have for the entire month or for the entire week, so that I know and I do not miss out the meetings and things like that? Okay, yeah, so just briefly on that, AI agents, this is really good. I've just briefly explained about it. One of the things that I've noticed, this I've been using diabetic retinopathy, which is kind of an autonomous type of screening, and it will be able to tell you diabetic retinopathy or diabetic retinopathy when you need to refer or not refer. So there are many other tools that are there on the market. So just a key terminologies. Again, I would like to ask, in case I mislead the masses here, the AI experts, you may need to correct me, but just to bring out, speaking as an ophthalmologist point of view, is hallucination. Actually, for me, this is really what is really interesting. Some 2 years ago, when I tried to ask AI, that was ChatGPT, it gave me a lot of wrong references. At first, I didn't know what this really meant. I learned it a hard way. So I pushed in and gave me references, and I was counter-checking because I got interested. Let me just read through the paper in details. I could not find the paper. I literally spent the whole night looking for all those references. And then I started hearing hallucinations. So this is where the AI is guessing and, just brings, because it's under pressure. It must give you, an answer. So it takes wherever it is and gives you all that. So iteration, this is really very important, because the more you interact with it over time, you start understanding, and you are increasing the fluency and everything around. So the context window, this has to do with the maximum tokens that the model can have. For example, here, the Gemini 2.5 had about 1 million tokens, meaning you can get a lot of literature, sometimes the entire textbook, push it, and you'll be able to do all that. And then prompting, this is just an art that you develop over time. It's really, some people call it engineering. I think it's engineering, but I think it's also an art, because you are learning and you are trying to know how to ask it. I believe it's an art that clinicians must be able to learn, to be able to not to waste time, not to waste tokens, And then an AI agent is just an autonomous AI system, like the way you have this, the self-driven cars, all those things around. And I think to some extent, even SciSpace is also maybe an autonomous agent, because you can ask it something and then to be able to generate something for you. The AI skills, sometimes you keep on asking the same questions over and over, but you can create an AI, some form of skills that you save. And then after you have done that, you have saved all those prompts or the questions, the definition, or whatever you want, you build it in. Every time you want to go back and ask a question, you save on time, and to be able to tell you that. The token, of course, for me, I consider token is similar to bundles or airtime. You can consume it, you can buy it, and you can finish. This RAG, retrieval augmented generation, that's what I was talking about, not LM. What you have put in is what is there. This is really more, or you give this AI to go into an exam, and you have an individual, you give that individual a textbook, and then they go and sit an exam. So they are working within the information which is there, and they have removed guesswork and doing all those things. So I like this type of tools. So Consensus, SciSpace, and not LM, because they have that input, chances of them hallucinating are very high, are very low. So I think the take-home messages is that AI augments and it never replaces. Prompting is a new clinical skill that every clinician should be able to develop, and comes over time. You need to have different tools that you are comfortable with. There are a lot. You can use whatever things that you work around with. Remember, ethics first always. Even if there are no laws, like say the data protection did not put up laws, you must be able to think through what I'm doing. Is it for the benefit of the patient, or am I being careless? So that is very important. So these are some of the tools that I use. Like I mentioned, Claude, use it for a number of things. I mentioned that I use Claude Cowork for monthly planning, for example. Gemini, just prompting and asking so many questions for brainstorming. And the SciSpace, I've already explained, spend some time here, and Notebook LM for deep dive learning. And just a bit on prompt engineering, they say that it's a core clinical competence. There's this particular nice book written by this gentleman here down here, Ziegler or something, with a friend. Very difficult names to pronounce. I found it very interesting. It would be a good read if you're able to spend some time, you'll be able to learn some methods. So all these things here are different methods of prompting on what you can learn as a clinician. So there are these other methods, we used to use a lot of mnemonics around in case you forget, you just remember clear, like one method, and then you have crafts, you have RTF, things like that. But for me, the easiest one is what I learned from Google. Google makes it very simple. It just says, I just look at 4 things when I'm prompting. What is the role? I give the persona to that particular the thing, and then I give it a context, and then I give it a task, and then output, like what do I really want exactly? What is my desired outcome I want from this? And then I've forgotten to add on the 5th one, which is iteration, back and forth. Yes, so thank you very much. Here I have my clinical references for Slate from what I use, and also my references for prompt engineering. I hope I've not finished your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mumbi. Well, you have not finished the time, but you have chewed a lot of time. I don't know if we have Dr. Mateo on the call to please go ahead and present. If you have questions for Dr. Mumbi, please keep them for the end. Dr. Mateo?
Good evening. I see Willard has taken up all the time. But
He sure has.
from him, yeah. I hope we still have a bit of time. I'll try and rest through my presentation. Let me try and find it. Just give me a minute. Just to get a confirmation that you're able to see my slides.
Yes, Doc, we can.
Okay, I think the main elements have been covered in what has been talked about today, and indeed I have learned a lot. And the temptation while you're listening to a lot of things is to change your own slides to fit in some things. Unfortunately, I missed last week, so some things I may talk about may have been mentioned in last week's CME, but here we go. So this will be a schema of my presentation. So to start with, I think this has been talked about, but I'll run through a few basic elements before I talk about what work we're doing. So what is the AI? So basically, it's machines that are able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. And this could be learning, could be problem solving, as well as decision making. And often learn from and use data. So with AI, it often learns and uses data to do these tasks. So it needs lots of data to be able to perform tasks and make decisions. And what happens is that with this data, algorithms are made and designed by the AI unit to process large amounts of data. And through that data, it identifies patterns and makes predictions or judgment. Oh, sorry. So as depicted in this illustration, so you have Willard Mumbi trying to draw the plants that he likes. And the AI is able to do pretty much the same thing as, if not better than Willard is able to. So how old is this AI? We've started hearing about it maybe in the past 5 years or so, but discussions on AI began in the 40s or 50s at about the advent of computers. But by the end of the 20th century, it had entered homes with automated vacuum cleaners. I do not know if any of you know them. So these are vacuum cleaners that were automated and would move around furniture to vacuum and clean the floors. And I think it's about at the same time, perhaps the most famous AI tool was the Deep Blue AI unit that beat the then world chess champion, Gas Kasparov, in a game of chess. And it stunned the world. So that was the beginning of AI. So there are different ways of defining and classifying this AI, but I'll just talk about 3 main types. So there's what is called the narrow AI, which is developed or trained to perform a specific task. So it's either, say, in this case, this AI is taught to mark a multiple choice question. So a template is put in whether 1 is A, 2 is B, 3 is C, and it's able to do that. Beyond that, it can't do anything else, and that's what it's been taught to. Or on a more practical level, perhaps maybe if you use finger or face recognition for your phone, that's all that AI does, just to recognize your face or your finger based on what you input. And beyond that, it's not able to do anything else. So this is what is called a general purpose AI. So it uses large data to train a system to perform multiple tasks. So whereas initially the example said it can do mark multiple choice questions, this one can take notes and this one can type as well. So it can do multiple things. And because of that, it requires large volumes of data from different sources to be able to perform these tasks. And there's what is called the artificial general intelligence. This is a fully automated AI that is able to train itself to do multiple things and make decisions, even on an ethical level. But this is mainly theoretical and not in use. But how does AI work? What happens? So like I said, it depends on data. So it's garbage in, garbage out. You have this data that you collect, then it processes this data, extracts particular features or patterns in this data, and uses that to train a model that is then first tested and then validated on different things and then implemented. And then once it's implemented, the way of training an AI, it does not stop once you create one model. The training of an AI model is iterative. So as more data, as new information is come up with, it's fed into the initial model to make it better and accommodate different things. So there's large data sets which are needed, and then algorithms are used based on the feature or data or pattern extraction. And through what is called machine learning, it causes speech recognition, image analysis, as well as language, like we were taught in the things Willard was talking about. But the main thing is this term called machine learning. So basically, it's focused on building systems that learn from data and improve over time without being explicitly programmed. And it involves feeding these algorithms that are designed to make from large amounts of data and allowing them to learn patterns and make decisions based on that data. And from this machine learning, there's a subset that is called deep learning. So from this illustration, so you have an input, which is a car. This looks like a VW Beetle. With machine learning, you need human input. So a human being will extract features that make this a car. Maybe the size of the tires, there's a bonnet, there's a boot, there's a door, there's a steering wheel, there's a gear lever. So the human being will extract these features and put it into this thing. So many of these things that are coming in are brought into this algorithm. So the algorithm using those features that are collected then will be able to determine, is this a car or not a car? And that's the output, for example. But with deep learning, there's no feature extraction using a human. So the feature extraction and classification is done by what are called deep neural networks. So these are automated systems that collect these features automatically and determine what belongs to where, and then have the same output. So therefore, the difference between machine learning and deep learning is that deep learning is totally automated and therefore requires huge volumes of data to give that output. Then just go through some elements of AI use. This is what is called generative AI. Willard spoke about this. It's where you generate content to questions or prompt. And of course, we know the language models. There's Google Gemini, there's Cloud, there's ChatGPT, there's Microsoft Pilot, and so on and so forth. So you put in a prompt, and then it gives you whatever you want, depending on what data it has, what algorithms, what patterns it has. And of course, there's debate. Some people will tell you, oh, it's Google that is the best. Others will tell you, no, it's Cloud. Others will tell you that it's GPT. So, for example, I put in a prompt when I was preparing this slide, these slides earlier on, into ChatGPT to say, when is the Zambia Ophthalmological Society AI meeting? And the response was, I could not find any publicly listed ZOS meeting specifically focused on AI from available web sources. So it goes on to say, if you're referencing to a meeting that was recently circulated within the ophthalmology community in Zambia, it may not yet be publicly advertised. So ZOS, you have a task, AI could not find anything. So it gives me a few possibilities. But then it goes on to say, if you have any of the following, I can try to locate the exact details. The meeting title, organizer's name, a flyer or screenshot, an email announcement, an approximate month when it's supposed to take place. So there's no data it had at the moment from this prompt. So it's now giving me what I should do to see if it can give me more details. And somebody once taught me that it's also good. Of course, the AI is not human, but it may help sometimes to be polite to it. So I put in the prompt and said, yes, please. Before I could put in either Willard's WhatsApp text or whatever, it says, oh, yes, I found the details. ZOS is running a CME series entitled AI in Healthcare, and it gave me the program part 1 and part 2. So also, like I said, garbage in is garbage out. So sometimes when you put in a prompt, the AI may not have the answers. So you may need to maybe refashion your prompt or ask further details, and it may just give you the answer. But you also have to be wary about the hallucinating that Willard was talking about. Then other elements of AI use, it's important in predictive analytics to help anticipate future risks and trends. And this depends on the quality of the input data, particularly say for outbreaks. Right now we have Ebola. So it's important to map out using data from previous outbreaks. You can sort of AI can help us pretty much predict the outcome of a particular outbreak, or in fact, even just the course or trends of a disease. So if it's in a disease state, it can help identify high-risk patients, optimize resource allocation, particularly in what we call low resource limited settings, such as that one. And therefore, it's important to optimize resource allocation and help enhance disease prevention strategies. So this is more data-driven, efficient, and patient-centered healthcare systems, leading to improved health outcomes and reduced costs. So with good use of AI, it may help us improve our patients' outcome. Then there's what is called human in the loop. So with human in the loop, it ensures meaningful human oversight of an AI system. AI systems are designed by humans who input data, and the AI is not a human being. It lacks certain insight. So in this illustration, you have the AI on the right and you have the human being on the left. So the AI on its own has a missing piece in the jigsaw. And this missing piece can be put in by the human beings. Because the AI, I say, lacks real-world context sometimes, personal judgments, as well as ethical considerations. And therefore, that's when the human being comes in. So we have to learn that we have to be responsible over this AI and how we use it, because it's a good tool to use. It will not fully replace human beings, but we need to use it responsibly to get good outcomes. It's here to stay. We can't do without it, but it's here to stay. But the human in the loop is very important. And this just pretty much illustrates the different use of AI in healthcare settings. I'll not belabor these illustrations. What about AI in academia? I know there are registrars here and the people who are involved in teaching here, consultants, and in the universities. So in academia, there are benefits. It's good for student support. I think you will realize that when we train in undergrad and maybe even in graduate school, it was very different. There's a lot more effort put in compared to now. And Willard very well illustrated those points. Then, of course, administrative efficiency, automation of grading, plagiarism checks, and administrative processes, research and writing, literature reviews, data analysis, and idea generation. These are important. Sometimes people feel like if I'm using an AI to help me do my literature review, I'm cheating. No, you're not cheating. In the world of academia globally, it's acceptable to use AI, but it's important to declare that you've used AI. No one will subtract anything from you. It's just important to cite, as you would say you cited something from a particular piece of literature. So if you used AI to help you do your systematic review or to write your paper, it's important to write in the acknowledgements that you used AI. So declaration is very, very important. And then accessibility, also AI-powered tools like text-to-speech and automated captioning increases accessibility. And here below, I've put in different things that I use in academia. I talked about SciSpace, there's Quillbot, there's Research Rabbit, connected papers, there's Ryan, which I used especially for literature review or systematic reviews. But what are the challenges? Of course, number one is academic integrity, plagiarism and authenticity of student work. So sometimes students nowadays are gathered with just put in a prompt, it gives this text and they submit it. So it's important for us to be wary about this, because then that's not original work. It's important to work alongside the AI, but to also have scrutiny. What is this AI taught me? What will it do to me? And just on the point of this and hallucination, I think there was a recent case, was it last year, in the US, where a judge was I think censored because he gave a judgment that sounded very good, but it came from AI and it hallucinated. It gave cases that were never there. This was in case, so it cited authorities of a case on making that judgment that were never there. And so this case had to be retried by another judge. So that judge was censured, was removed from the bench, etc. So much as we use the AI, it's important for us, if I type in a prompt and it gives me information, to go back and see, is this information legitimate or is this AI hallucinating? Then with that comes in ethical consideration. We've heard from Mr. Momba from the Office of the Data Protector about data privacy. And then, of course, there's algorithmic bias. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. And some of these large language models are trained on data sets, not from an African context. So I can search for something and get data that is on a patient, on a young Black Zambian patient who's HIV infected, when data on decisions on that AI was used on 80-year-old Caucasian HIV negative males with cancer. So we all have to be wary about the sources of this language model on what was used to train the information. So scrutiny is important. So with that, we don't need to be over-reliant on AI because, like I said, the AI lacks human critical thinking and may not be reliable for specialized information. So we have to have the scrutiny. And then, of course, in academia, another challenge is, which we may not be have a look in, but it may be true for students, particularly in undergraduates. It may cause anxiety and in some students who may experience increased anxiety due to pressure of using AI effectively and fear of falling behind. Then there are issues of equity and access. There are concerns about equitable access to AI technologies for students, as not everyone has the same resources. So that is very, very important. In academia, of course, there has been a huge debate about academia AI detection tools. Before AI, there was Turnitin, which was used to determine whether one has plagiarized their work or not. And now these AI companies have been designing tools to help detect plagiarism. And different studies have been done to assess the accuracies of different tools as depicted in the table on the right. But there's always debate and there's new information on this. But the important thing is that if we're using a tool, the tool, we need to make sure that it will not give a lot of false positives. Meaning that if Willard has submitted an assignment or a thesis, the tool should not falsely say that he used AI on it, when indeed it is original work without AI or with just limited use of AI. So the tools have to also be foolproof. And I think these are discussions that are ongoing. So it's important for those in academia, in faculty, to be aware of these discussions. Okay. So what about the future of AI in academia? Are we ready as a country? What next? So AI is here to stay. We have to embrace it. But we need to bridge the healthcare gap. And AI accelerates this, as been shown in the case that Willard illustrated. But we need to start now. So there are those who sometimes say, no, let's wait until we have good internet access. But the world is already moving. We can't wait. Somebody says you do not wait for a road to be constructed to buy a car. You say, no, I'm waiting for the road to my house to be tarred for me to buy a car. You buy a car and you pray that the road will be constructed for you to drive on that beautiful road. So we start now and then everything else follows. But ownership is needed. And that's why the Office of the Data Protector is very important, because we need to own the data. And I think recently, there was a debate about the US needing data from African countries as a prerequisite for aid. So data is the new gold. So it's important that we protect our data. So we need to own it for sustainable success. And as we further this thing on AI, it's important that we have cautions. And one, agency is not a good thing. So we need to always, with agents, but we always need to think about ethics. Like we say, community participation is prime. And then protecting local data. Then, of course, we need to build capacity, both human and infrastructure. So with those elements, I'll give a bit of thing on the work that we're doing with AI-read point-of-care lung ultrasound for tuberculosis diagnosis. So our study is evaluating different ways of getting ultrasounds on the chest or on the lungs and different probes that we're using. So it's a randomized diagnostic trial. And the rationale of the problem is that we may know very well that tuberculosis is the world's leading infectious killer. A couple of years ago, it was overtaken by COVID, but it has since regained its #1 spot. And Zambia, though it's having an estimated a decline in its incidence, still has a very high number of incidents of TB, and still has very high number of deaths as a result of TB, which has placed it among the top 30 countries in the world with a triple burden of HIV-associated TB, drug-resistant TB, and just TB on its own. And part of this reason is because there are a lot of diagnostic gaps. So there's a low suspicion of TB among healthcare workers. There's incomplete diagnostic processes due to costs, limitations, and there's limited access to portable, sensitive diagnostic tools. You may know very well that the main tools that we use for screening for TB, one is the chest X-ray, and two, of course, sputum as a confirmatory test. But Zambia has a landmass of over 750,000 square kilometers, some of which are hard to reach. And to set up an X-ray unit is not only costly because it also requires maintenance, setup of equipment, it requires maintenance, then it requires expertise. We do not have enough radiographers to dot all around the country. So not all areas have this tool, that is the chest X-ray. So a potential solution is the ultrasound. A portable ultrasound will cost anything between $1,000 to $4,000. And recent studies, not many, have showed that ultrasound has got fairly good sensitivity when it comes to diagnosis of TB. And this is based on certain features on ultrasound that are detected in the chest. Among them, a subpleural nodule, lung consolidation. And there's this study by somebody called Sattels and colleagues who did this study in Benin. And they found that use of lung ultrasound had AUC, area under the curve, of about 0.84, sensitivities of lung ultrasound above 80 with specificity of about 70%, which was very good. And Sattels and colleagues trained an AI based on the data they collect in Benin to try and predict TB. And if you look at this area under the receiver operating curve, human expert had an area under the curve of 0.84, and they used different suites of AI. The first one had an AUC of about 0.89, second 0.9, and the last one 0.93, which is quite very good, replacing the ultrasound. So where do we anticipate the place of ultrasound now? So I have two algorithms. There's the current one, which places the patient comes in with symptoms, and the screening tools, like I said, are the chest X-ray and then the sputum. And we anticipate that lung ultrasound could be here because it's inexpensive. It's portable if you use not the standard ultrasound, but the portable ones, which are handheld, and you use either a tablet or you connect them to the phone. And then you can use this and then investigate for those who are likely for TB, send them for confirmatory testing. But with this, we do not know the ideal way of acquiring an ultrasound and which probe to use. Then we do not know the full applicability of AI. We've gotten this single study in Benin, which has showed very good AI accuracy, but it's just one study and no one else is doing it. But before we started our current study, we had a small pilot in Kanyama whose aim was to explain how lung ultrasound can be used to screen for TB. It was a cross-sectional design with two independent cohorts which we enrolled one after another. In phase 1, we had about 562 participants. In the second phase, about 91 participants. In the first phase, we did lung ultrasound using these 16 sweeping motions across the chest wall, 10 in the front, in the anterior, as well as the axilla, and 6 at the back, as depicted by this illustration. So this was a more complex way of doing this ultrasound. And then in phase 2, with 91 participants, we tried to simplify this way of getting ultrasound images. So we did a 5-zone protocol as depicted on this, with 3 zones in the anterior chest wall and axilla, and 2 at the back, and tried to assess the accuracy. This basically are the baseline characteristics of our patients, but I will not go through them. But in the first phase of our study, I'll draw your attention to what is highlighted here. So we looked at two main features that had the highest accuracy. This was what is called the subpleural consolidation and the consolidation. And they had very good area under the curve. And then we also created in Stata a variable called any abnormality, where if one had any abnormality on ultrasound, how good was it as a pointer to TB? So any abnormalities, regardless of what it was, also showed very good area under the curve. Then when we did the second phase, we tried to see if this would be comparable. And indeed it was. There was not so much of a difference. If you look at any abnormalities, AUC in the 16 zone was 0.88, in the 5 zone was 0.184. Subpleural consolidation was 8.7 in the 16 zone, slightly reduced 0.7, same as consolidation, slightly reduced, but not statistically significantly reduced. And we're like, okay, bingo, that's good. But why did we want to have a simplified way of doing ultrasound? The rationale was that if you take ultrasound to a far-flung area, it will not be manned by a clinical officer or by a radiologist or by a radiographer or by a doctor. Some of them are manned by a nurse or even a cleaner. So we wanted a way of doing ultrasound that anyone can pretty much do on the chest wall, and then you have your images. But then a cleaner can do a simplified way of 5-zone ultrasound protocol, but they'll not be able to read it. Hence the role of ultrasound. So what we did then is get those images and then train an AI model to see if it could predict the presence of TB or not. And we used the gold standard of sputum in all these participants to derive the sensitivities, specificities, and the area under the curve. And when we used the AI, it showed area under the curve, which was improved. It was a 0.92, and then 0.95 when we further trained it on both cohorts with a specificity of 78% and a sensitivity of above 90%. And compared to the human reader below here, the AUC was 0.9. So slightly better because it was 0.95. So, but with the AI, what we did not specify which abnormalities. We just said abnormal or normal as a screening tool. And the AI was able to predict normal in terms of unlikely TB, and then abnormal, likely TB. So when we did this AI training, it showed very good initial results. And that was a good thing. But when you're training an AI, there are issues that were raised about data security. I'll digress a bit here. So there are two ways of training an AI model. There's what is called the federated learning, and there's a centralized. You do not want to get data from Zambia and send it abroad to train it, because then you lose the data. So what we are trying to use is what is called the federated learning system. So you have a central server, which is on the cloud-based storage system with a lot of security systems. And this comes in with a template of normal, abnormal. And then what it does, it sends this template to different nodes. Say, we're doing this in Zambia, client 2 is doing this in Angola, or client 2 is doing this in Mozambique. This template is gotten. Then as you get data from patients in whom you're scanning, the AI model is being trained more and more and feeding back to the central global model, which is improving and sending back a renewed template. So it's an iterative way of training, but without data leaving its jurisdiction. Meaning that if you're training a model in Zambia, data will not leave Zambia. It will go to our server, which has a template, and the training is decentralized. And this is much better compared to a centralized machine learning, where all the data is uploaded to a model, which can be perhaps in Europe or in the US, and people have access to that data and they'll do it for whatever they want to do, even if it's anonymized. So we're using the federated learning. So I'll go back a bit. With this model and these numbers on the AI, we're like, okay, this has shown that the concept can work. However, we had very few numbers. To train an AI model requires huge sets of numbers. And then our design was cross-sectional, which was inferior, and therefore the statistical power was not that great. And we lacked a direct comparison of 16 versus 5-zone protocol and which probe to use. So we've gone further to say, okay, can we now tag the different way of doing the ultrasound, the comprehensive protocol, which is 16 zone, against the simplified protocol, and then using two different kinds of probe. So broadly speaking, this probe, there's a curved probe, which has got a large footprint on the chest wall at the cost of resolution. And there's a linear probe, very narrow footprint on the chest wall, so it may miss some things, but has got very good resolution. And therefore, we wanted to compare these four things and see which one will be better. So we get suspected TB participants and are screened for inclusion with this criteria, consent them, and then we get the sputum, we do a chest X-ray, and we assess for HIV status, etc. And we randomize them to 4 groups, one with a 16-zone protocol with a curved probe, one with a 16-zone protocol with a linear probe, and then the other 2 groups. And that's where we are today. And we expect to, these are our expected outputs. Number 1, diagnostic accuracy of simplified protocol. 2, what a better probe will be. Then 3, we're getting a training data set for AI. So we've got a sample size of about 2,700, and we are currently just over 1,000. So it will be interesting to come back maybe, and we use that data to train the AI model, which is iterative and ongoing. So we'll report back to say, okay, this is what we got with the probe and the protocols, and then the AI showed these results, and we'll report back to this. So with that, I'll say thank you very much. Hello, I end there. The invite questions. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, thank you so much, Doc. Very interesting presentation. I don't know if the house will allow me to just allow one last presentation. Dr. Momba, I don't know how long your presentation is, and then we'll have 1 or 2 questions, and then we can call it a night.
All right, thank you so much. A lot has been said. I think I'll try to be quick because a lot has been said, so I'll just skip through it. Yeah, can you get me?
Yes, sir, we can.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm basically looking at AI readiness in Zambian health system. So basically focusing on data quality, interoperability, and infrastructure. I'm sure a lot of this was covered in the first webinar, and what national scale EHR deployment teaches us about building the data infrastructure AI needs. So apologies, I just got disturbed. Yeah, but we're looking at data quality, and I think it's something that has come out. And then we're looking at systems which are interoperable, and we're also looking at the infrastructure on which AI rides. So my presentation is basically covering the context and data, the data quality and systems, and the strategy and outlook. So I'll not go into the granular sections. So what's the landscape? Zambia's health data landscape. So when we look at our landscape, we have over approximately 3,000 health facilities across 10 provinces and serving about 20 million people. And the country, I'm sure you've seen, is investing significantly in digital health infrastructure because we need this for AI to ride on. And so the key digital health systems in Zambia, some of them not comprehensive, are Smart Care, I'm sure, which we all know, which is the National HIV/AIDS Electronic Patient Tracking System, which has been there from 2005 to present. It has just been changing and being upgraded. We have the DHIS2, which basically looks at aggregate health management information system or aggregate data. I just want to talk about Smart Care Pro, which is part of the Smart Care I mentioned initially. It's an upgraded version, okay, which has also integrated additional disease modules. And so it started off looking at HIV, TB, but now it's looking at, it's gone through OPD, and it's doing everything else. So it's like health is supposed to be managed in one system. And that's why when it's being deployed now, it's being deployed at all service delivery points, not only OPD or outpatient services, but even inpatient services. So we're looking at the ELMIS, which is basically the laboratory and medicines information systems. And then we're also looking at the health management information systems for routine data collection. So why AI matters for the Zambian health. So a lot has been spoken about it. So again, I'll just run through. AI can help connect remote communities to better healthcare. If you look at the urban setting and the rural settings, they're very different in terms of services provided, but this can be a connector to support remote communities for better healthcare. Then already mentioned AI tools can detect the TB, HIV, and other diseases earlier. We have years of PEPFAR and CDC, USA data, which gives Zambia a very strong starting point because of the data, longitudinal data all the way from 2005. Then Zambia's young population can be trained as future AI workers. When we look at the population distribution, we have the younger population, which is in the majority, and that gives hope to future AI for the country. Then the National Digital Inclusion Program is expanding internet access. I'm sure you've seen that across the country, different partners, including Smart Zambia, expanding internet access to these facilities so that they can use the Smart Care online, which is now a web-based platform. And so data can be collected in real time and go to a central repository where it can be stored and can be used as big data. I want to talk just about the Zambia Digital Health Strategy, which is coined by the Ministry of Health, and how it lays a foundation for AI. Okay, so the vision of this strategy is basically improved health outcomes for all Zambians through a sustainable, secure, and innovative digital health ecosystem that is seamless in its operation. And this basically has 7 pillars. The first one is leadership and governance. We can't talk about AI when we don't talk about leadership and governance. We can't talk about AI if we don't handle issues of investment and sustainability. Worse off, we cannot talk about AI, as previous speakers have said, that there's a big component that AI will not do that requires the human aspect, and that's the workforce for digital health. Legislation, policy, and compliance. We've talked about the Data Protection Act. The 5th pillar is standards and interoperability. Are systems talking together or the data is fragmented? Infrastructure, what is AI going to ride on? And then we have services and applications. So these are the 7 pillars. And when we look at these 7 pillars and what we're talking about today, AI will ride on all this. So the EHR ecosystem, that's Smart Care, and we have DHIS2. I've already talked about Smart Care, which is basically a national HIV ART patients record system and is used in about 70% of our ART sites. It tracks various things. It tracks CD4, it tracks labs, it tracks drug dispensations, it tracks appointments, it tracks those who are screened for TB, for cervical cancer, and a lot of other issues. So it works at facility level with district and national dashboards. Previously, we had an offline version where TDBs or transport databases had to be merged for us to have one picture or a whole picture of the country. But now we have a web-based. But again, internet access remains a hurdle. When you go to the facilities, they'll complain about internet. And so the real-time aspect of the data that we want is becoming a reality, but it's also a challenge because of infrastructure issues. And then data quality varies across facilities. So the DHIS2, again, it's a national reporting system used across all 10 provinces. So you find that the Ministry of Health is using DHIS2 for reporting like prevention data, but we are also using Smart Care, which has embedded some prevention data, and so we have data in different systems. So we also have the issue of the integration reality. Are these systems we are talking about interoperable, or they're standalone systems which can't be integrated, and we have data fragmented in different systems, posing a challenge actually to use AI if we don't have data in one place, or systems which can talk to each other. So in terms of data quality, AI brings out, like Dr. Mateo says, exactly what is fed into it. And so we don't expect miracles from AI when things are wrong in it. And so when we look at the enhanced data quality assessment or audit program, you find that when you audit the electronic health record system, you find there's misclassification of patients, those who interrupt treatment, transfer documentation is sometimes not correct. You find that there are dispensing errors within the system. There are sync failures. Even if it's web-based, you find that the facility has backlog because they have internet challenges, and so we can't get the real-time data. Issues to do with appointment tracking are also a challenge. And so we have a lot of issues that we need to fix in order for us to, even as we talk about AI, we need to ensure that we fix certain things for us to have AI give us what we need. So the foundation, in terms of data quality, the foundation AI cannot be built without. So exactly what the other speakers have said, bad data in, bad results out. AI makes data quality problems worse, not better. So what is in there? What is it looking at? Is the data okay? Otherwise, it's going to give us an output which we feel is okay, but is not okay because it's just bringing out what we are putting into the system. So when we look at data quality, we're looking at completeness, we're looking at accuracy, we're looking at timeliness, and we're already talking about lag because of internet issues of data inside consistency and issues to do with uniqueness, because you actually find that currently sometimes you would find duplicate IDs or one client or three clients with the same ID within the same system. And so it poses a challenge. So these are the issues related to data quality. I will not really speak to this, but we have a lot of systems running today, and I think I've spoken about it. Are these systems speaking to each other? If I use Smart Care and I'm using ELMIS now, which is actually better, it's a logistics management information system. Right now, there's a rollout because now they are interoperable, and so they are talking to each other, but are all other systems talking to each other? When I'm posting something in Smart Care, I'm posting a prescription in Smart Care, can a pharmacist get it in ELMIS? And when they dispense there, can it also communicate with Smart Care and update the patient record? So are our systems interoperable? Are they communicating? So when we look at the strategy and we look at standards, the digital health strategy for Ministry of Health, and we look at standards, interoperability and infrastructure, there are national strategy commitments which have been put in place. So the 2022 to 2026 strategy targets the gaps in data sharing and infrastructure that hold back AI in Zambia. So when we look at that, it's online, it's there. When you Google Digital Health Strategy MOH 2022-2026, you get it. So it tries to close these gaps. And these are the components, especially when we look at standards and interoperability and infrastructure. These are the components that it's trying to bring in that would hold back AI. So we're looking at enhancing e-health standards body, developing interoperability framework, national health systems architecture, data governance model, and implementing a national healthcare ID. In terms of infrastructure, it's talking about internet connectivity, which I've already mentioned that is posing a challenge, consistent power access. Load shedding has improved, but here and there we still have it down. And so when there's no power backup in the facilities, it means we can't have real-time data and we can't make real-time decisions. Healthcare cloud and infrastructure. Okay. So what are the gaps? I've already highlighted this, so I won't belabor it. There are issues of connectivity. Okay, there are issues of hardware. There are issues of human capital. When I talk about human capital, it's issues around healthcare workers in terms of digital skills, which are low, especially in rural areas. I remember we did a digital health assessment for healthcare workers, and you can see that there are significant gaps in that area. And then there are very few health informatics staff, and these, when they are there, most of these are in cities. And then software and standards. So AI readiness gaps in the health sector, there are issues to do with infrastructure, talent and skills. Okay, most clinical staff and M&E staff have limited AI knowledge. And so we also have governance and data issues. Okay, and then we have issues to do with investment. How much are we putting in to make this a reality in terms of the health sector? So in terms of investment and sustainability, the funding challenge for digital health, most of the digital health is almost entirely funded by donors. Smart Zambia has come in, government budgets have increased. When you hear the annual budgets, there's money now being allocated to digital health, but the budgets are still a drop in the ocean to realize what we want. So basically, there's no comprehensive costing. There's a sustainability gap. When donor money stops, systems go back to old ways. I'm sure the experience of the stop work order is not far off, and we know what happened, and we know what happened to the system, the smart care system. Then there's fragmented donor coordination, but government has put measures here where there's now the position of PS data donor coordination. So that is trying to bridge the gap, though there's still a lot of work to be done. So in terms of the strategy response, there are two key initiatives: developing a financing plan for digital health, and I'm sure you've seen that through Smart Zambia, and coordination of donor funding. And that's why this PS position was brought up by the government. Key to what others have said, I will not go through all the slide or the whole content here. Issues of workforce on digital health, their capacity gaps, and then there's a strategic response from the strategy. So digital health training only reaches a small number of health workers. I think even the interest needs to be provoked, but now we can't run away from the digital space. And so as health workers, we have no choice but have to get into the digital space. Initially, there's been no training in health informatics in the country, but now it has been introduced at the University of Zambia at master's level, not yet at undergrad. And then digital health staff are placed without a plan, not matched to facility needs, those who are available. And so this issue of getting this space working is very critical, especially from the workforce perspective. When you look at the strategy, It's very ambitious. It has monitoring and evaluation targets by year 5. Okay, and the strategy is ending this year. And so when we're going to evaluate it, we need to see what it set out to do. It said 5,000 unique staff trained cumulatively through digital health platforms, 10,000 staff trained through online platforms, 80 to 90% graduation rate for enrolled digital health certificate students, 50% undergraduate students employed in public health institutions. And so when we're doing an end evaluation, we are going to see this, and hopefully some strides would have been made, but I'm sure not all these targets would have been comprehensively met. So smart care, the EHR, the national EHR, has been here for slightly over 20 years, from 2005. But what does it teach us about the AI infrastructure? Adoption is not equal to quality. Okay, so putting EHR systems in place generates a lot of records, but not necessarily good ones. So this system, like I've said, still has gaps in accuracy and completeness 20 years later. And we've already said, as other speakers have said, AI needs good data, not just more data. So we need more good data. The offline version that we used for the EHR initially created temporal gaps because the syncing was done at the facility, the servers were at the facility, and so collecting all these databases and merging them took time. Okay, but now we have an online, a web-based system, but it comes with other infrastructure challenges like internet connectivity, and so still causing some of those delays. Then I've talked about parallel systems and having fragmented data in different systems which cannot talk to each other. And then there are issues to do with workforce, which is a critical variable. And then we are talking about standards to enable scale. So facilities using standard IDs and codes produce 2 to 3 times better AI results. So without standards, even clean data cannot be combined across facilities. And the last part is community data is the missing layer. So health records miss what happens outside the clinic. So we need comprehensive data all the way from the community to the health facility. So community and social factors are the strongest predictors of those who interrupt treatment, maternal outcomes, and malaria. But mostly these are not captured in smart care or in DHIS2. So the opportunity ahead as I go towards my conclusion, we have a national AI strategy. I think the first speaker, Mr. Mwemba, talked about it. We have a national AI strategy, and its aim is to position Zambia as a regional hub for AI, for development innovation. And in this strategy, it says health is the highest impact entry point for AI in Zambia. And that's why the Data Protection Commission, through the Commissioner's Office, has been working closely with the health sector, because health data is very sensitive. And so they've started working a lot with the health sector and want to get the health sector done. They are starting to register. They're asking organizations which deal with health to have data protection officers because of this. And the strategy itself says health is the highest impact entry point for AI in Zambia. Okay. So what are the pillars in this national strategy? Policy and governance, just like the digital health strategy, human capital, data and infrastructure, research and innovation, sectoral AI adoption, and global partnerships. So from this, what are the key takeaways? Infrastructure gaps are addressable with the right strategy. And if we're going to adopt AI, and if we're going to use AI very successfully in our health sector, infrastructure needs to be addressed. Issues to do with interoperability is a critical bottleneck. We need to ensure that we have systems which talk to each other. We need to adopt standards, international standards like FHIR, which are very critical to ensure that data is is of a particular standard. For it is essential for data to be in these formats for AI to be useful. Workforce is the critical piece, and Zambia, like the AI strategy says, can be a model for the region in the use of AI. After all, Zambia has led in many innovations when you look across the region. These were my slides, and this is where I end. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Momba, for that wonderful presentation. I know we are way past time. Maybe just in 1 minute, I don't know if there's any burning question or issues that people would have loved to raise before we proceed to closing this wonderful 2-part series of our CME.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead, Doc.
Yes, on the last presenter, knowing that smart care has not been developed from Zambia, marrying this information with the cautions that we've learned about protecting patients' data. So how has smart care protected the data for the Zambian patients? Then the last question, the other question is smart care also ready for ophthalmology services? And I also want to couple this with Dr. Mumbi, whose institution has also been using electronic data. What app or software are you using for your electronic? Is it the same smart care? Because from the last time I checked, smart care used to have a lot of challenges when you want to actually use it for inpatient. And the recommendations that were being made, looking at the workforce that was working with it, there used to be a lot of rigidity to act on those recommendations. So my third question is, at what level do those recommendations to change at or act on the challenges of smart care, at what level are they being worked on? Is it in Zambia? At what fora? Yes, I don't know if my 3 questions are clear.
Thank you so much, Doc, for those questions. So we'll start with you, Dr. Momba. I think the last question plus the first question on smart care, maybe you can address that one. Then Dr. Mumbi, you can come in on the EHR system that you're using at Lusaka Eye.
So thank you so much for those questions. I'll attempt to answer them. So firstly, the objective of smart care is to be used for all services. Like I stated, initially it set out to be used for HIV, but it started growing, and it has continued growing over the 20 years. More modules have been added to it, but we still have a lot of other things which are missing. And so the health sector is riding on smart care to be used for all services, and it should also be used for ophthalmology. But that module is not yet there. And so the way it operates right now is that specialists or people need to recommend and suggest and propose what they would like to see in the system, and then it will go to those who are developing the system. We have IHM who is leading this development and is working in collaboration with Smart Zambia. And so at that level, when these information come from the health sector, it goes through the Ministry of Health, through IHM. These things are discussed, meetings are held with the professionals, and information is obtained. How would you want this structured? What do you want to see in the system? And all that development process kicks in. And so, yes, it should be used for ophthalmology, but not yet used. In terms of data protection, there are many aspects of data protection, starting from the user, starting from issues to do with passwords. But when you look at our facilities are very vulnerable in terms of access, because anyone can enter anywhere, anyhow. And so chances of data breaches in regard to the Data Protection Act are high. And so that is why the Data Protection Commissioner comes in to regulate this and to ensure that these systems are tight enough not to leak or to give out information unnecessarily, because it has patient level data, and so there should be controls which should be done. So there are issues to do with passwords, there are issues to do with encryption, there are issues to do with certain functions that users cannot perform because of data protection until they are given certain rights. So like right now, you cannot delete, you cannot edit until something is done for you to enable that. And so it's a broad array of things that have been put in place, though I can say there's still much to be done. Thank you.
Okay, so before Dr. Mombi comes in, then I think there was a question on the question had something to do with the development of smart care not being at the local level. That probably it's how is the data being protected? Because it was sounding like smart care is not like a Zambian program. I think from what I got from the question. Maybe you can just clarify on that or answer that question, Dr. Momba.
Okay, thank you so much. So initially, when Smart Care came in, it was like a donor-driven program, a completely donor-driven program. But currently, we have seen, yes, there's a partner which is funded by the donor, but also by government to support the development of smart care. So the donor is slowly releasing that. And that's why government, when you look at the annual budget, even the budget which passed, they put a good amount for the deployment of smart care or hardware where smart care will ride in the facilities. And so initially it was donor, but now it's being driven by government through Smart Zambia. And so Smart Zambia is totally in control, working with the partner to do this deployment. And so the Zambian government is like taking over now the system, which was fully donor funded, but has been adopted by government, and government is using it, has taken over. Thanks.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm sure, obviously, since some specialties like ophthalmology and other specialties which are not yet on smart care, most likely will come on board with time. So we are hopeful that there should be engagements between the bodies running ophthalmology and the people who are running smart care, as it may be. Dr. Mumbi.
Yes, so we are using the electronic medical record that we outsourced because we are a small institution. We don't have all the subspecialties. So, they're supposed to have a contact lens, low vision, with the other usual clinical departments. So we realized that if we're going to develop something from scratch, it's really going to take us forever and going to be excessively expensive, and we need the technical abilities of people outside. So we outsource iSmart. So the electronic medical record is called iSmart. We outsourced it. We started working around it in 2021. That's when I think the data protection law came into effect, something like that. And then it took us a while to start operating up to 2023 because we are still trying to meander around. It was difficult to really figure out exactly what we need to do. But I think the most important thing that time was the issue is where we're going to be storing the patient's data. Our provider, where we're outsourcing, they had different servers in different regions. And when we're discussing with them, the initial idea was that we'll store in one of those countries. But I think we got advised and we started keeping the data for the patients locally. So I think that has been easy for us because our data are kept locally, but we still have technical support from the people that are there, being a smaller institution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mumbi. Thank you so much, Dr. Simkoko, for those questions. I know you've posted a follow-up question on whether the Zambian data is breached or not. But I think we can still take up that discussion beyond the session, if you may allow. Dr. Simkoko.
All right, thank you very much. It's fine. I really
Right.
appreciate.
Thank you so much. I think I know we might. This been quite an interesting series, and there were quite interesting topics. We know that most of the concepts that have been shared are new concepts, and they are quite exciting concepts that I think all of us have fallen in love with upon hearing the different things that are happening in this space of AI. We can go on and keep on discussing. May I just maybe take this opportunity to thank all our distinguished presenters, both for last week and this week. They have indeed brought to us quite a wealth of knowledge that I think has opened a lot of doors for us. I think there's no area within eye care that has been left untouched on the possibilities that we can have with the tools that we have already. It's very exciting to note that AI discussions have been ongoing since the 40s or the 50s, and almost every now and then we're interacting with AI, be it with our smartphones or everything else that we're doing. So we've successfully managed to, in this series, define what artificial intelligence is. We were told what machine learning is also, and deep learning. We looked at the Zambia Data Protection Act of 2021, which would still encourage that we all go back and further familiarize ourselves with. We looked at the role of the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. We also looked at ethics around AI usage. We were also graced with presentation that looked at how AI is augmenting clinical decision making as well as research. We looked at the practical applications of AI tools, and I think the big question which we ended up with was, is Zambia ready in as far as AI is concerned? From Dr. Mumba's presentation, I think despite the challenges, Zambia as a country is ready. Maybe the question that still begs answers is, are we ready as the body of eye care specialists? So may I encourage all of us to continue looking at the future of ophthalmology being not complete without digital health or AI, as it were. So let's continue in exploring these technologies, be it on our mobile phones or at work, and continue engaging with various platforms and various forms of learning so that we familiarize ourselves with what is obtaining in the world. We shouldn't be left behind. From the side of ZOS, let me just again thank everyone who managed to come to be part of this great series of presentation. And can we continue as a board of ophthalmologists to keep engaging in these discussions, because it's through this that we continue sharing knowledge that will help us sharpen our practices and, in essence, help us to eliminate avoidable blindness in Zambia, probably even inspire the region, as it were. With those remarks, may I officially declare this meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.